All right, so for today's class, you guys are going to make me a sandwich. I kind of expected a little bit more reaction to that statement. So we've been working on descriptive writing, and particularly instructional writing. And the next step, we've given directions, and now we're moving on to something that is in some ways simpler, but when you try to write it out, it turns out it's a great deal more complicated than telling someone how to get somewhere. Describing to somebody how to make your favorite sandwich. So I want you all to think about what your favorite sandwich is, and you have to carefully visualize all of the steps required to assemble it. Now, this is trickier than it sounds. So the first thing you need to know is that you need to have a list of ingredients, right? Every recipe, and that's really what this is, although we're going to make it much better than a standard recipe, but every recipe starts with a list of ingredients. So you need to tell me everything that you need first. Then your first step is not going to the store or, to Subway. And your first step is not retrieving the ingredients from the refrigerator or the cupboard or whatever. So when you list the ingredients, you can then assume that the person reading this, who is me, who is considering whether or not he wants to make your favorite sandwich, and every year I make somebody's favorite sandwich to try out for myself because I like sandwiches. Should I sing the Fred Penner song? You guys know the Fred Penner song? Sandwiches are beautiful, sandwiches are fine. Come on, you guys, seriously? I like sandwiches, I eat them all the time. All right, so I'll stop. So I'm not going to make 6, 8, 15 sandwiches, but I'm going to make one. I'm going to pick whichever one looks unique and interesting and sounds good. So you can assume that when I'm making your sandwich, you give me the list of ingredients, I have all those ingredients in front of me, right? I've put them on the counter, spread them out in front of me. What you also need to give is a list of tools. Do I need a knife? What kind of knife? Do I need more than one knife? Right? If you're going to tell me to slice tomatoes, you better tell me to get a tomato knife because you try to slice tomatoes with a butter knife and it doesn't go well. Right? You got to think about these things. Do I need a toaster? Do I need a frying pan and a stove? Do I need a microwave? Do I need a plate? Right? Do I need a napkin? Do I need a finger bowl so I can, clean my fingers off after?
Can we
Yes,
include images of the pictures?
Can you include images? No. No, you cannot include images. For a final step, you can include the image, of what it should look like. But I need to be able to read your writing and visualize it clearly. Okay, each step, I need to be able to visualize clearly. Now, here's the trick. I just arrived in this country from, let's say, India, where they don't eat sandwiches. They don't know what sandwiches are. They don't know what they're supposed to look like. I have no knowledge of sandwich fundamentals, like, that I should start with bread. How many slices of bread? What do I do with it? Right? I don't know anything about sandwiches. You are building this for me in my mind from scratch. I need to be able to picture it clearly. Incidentally, the reason that I picked India is that, as in my example, is that I have a friend who, his parents are from India, and he liked to tell a story about when his parents first moved to Canada. His father was working, I can't remember where he was working, not important, but on his lunch break, all of his coworkers had sandwiches. They all, packed sandwiches, and he wanted to fit in, so I'm going to have sandwiches too. I'll do what the locals do. So he saw that they had bread, and so he went to the grocery store and he found something called sandwich spread, and so he put that, which is mayonnaise, basically. So he thought that a sandwich was mayonnaise on bread, and that's what he had for months until somebody asked him what was on his sandwich, I suppose. But he likes to tell that story because you can't assume that people know these things. So I'm that guy. I don't know what you're talking about. So the key, and if you are the sort of person who has a favorite sandwich and has a particular way to make it, then you know that you can't slice the tomatoes too thin or too thick, or it's not right. The cheese has to be sliced the right way. It has to be positioned the right way. The butter has to be right to the edges, or it doesn't. It has to be cut diagonally, or it has to be cut square, or it has to be not cut at all. Right? All of those tips have to be included. You got to tell me not just what the ingredients are, what order I should be putting them on, how much I should be using, how thinly it should be sliced or thickly it should be piled or whatever. Yeah, buddy.
So for the ingredients, could you also, if you had a special ingredient, like let's say Chipotle Ranch, Great Value, or whatever, could you say that specific brand?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you've got a specific brand that this is the good stuff, tell me what the good stuff is. Because if I'm going to make your sandwich, I want to make it the good way,
Yeah.
right? So, I want to know what the good Chipotle Ranch is. And a tip would be, this is available at your local superstore or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when you start to think about it, originally you think, I'm making a sandwich, there's nothing to say. You just put the stuff on the bread and you eat it. When you start thinking about all of the processes, all of the steps that go into it, it can get quite detailed. And trying to explain that to somebody who doesn't know what a sandwich is your challenge. So aim for somewhere between 10 and 20 steps again. If you're a good way to think about your steps is that you shouldn't have more than one verb, right? So if you're going to say, you tell me how to place my bread, right? So place your bread in an orientation where, I don't know, the two sides are facing each other. That's one step. Spread is one step. Slice is one step. Anytime you're using a new verb, it should be a new step. If that kind of helps. You can, and I recommend this. So, step one, I don't know, spread shouldn't be step one, but just for example. And then underneath there, tip. For best results, this is a good phrase. For best results, comma, whatever. So if you've got a tip for me, this is the way to do it best. You can put that in as a sort of sub-step, right? Put in, for as many of your steps as you can, think about the best practices. For best results, make sure the butter reaches all the way to the edges of the bread. For best results, make sure you cut the crust off, whatever, if you're one of those weirdos. All right. And definitely, this sounds like, hopefully it's starting to sound interesting to you now. It is an interesting challenge, and I always really enjoy reading these. And I sometimes enjoy making the sandwich, but I always enjoy reading them. So, entertain me. Go.